This clip is going to demonstrate how to use pivot tables in Microsoft Excel. So first of all, why would you want to use pivot tables? So here we have a set of data, but we have 100 rows of data that relate to scholarship students in various colleges and universities. So there's 100 cases here. And what we have recorded about each of those individuals is we've given them an ID number, title, Mr., Ms., etc., forename, surname, their age, the county they're from, the code or game they play, the college they attend, the course they're taking, the stage they're at, the points they scored in their Leaving Cert, the value of the scholarship that they've won or been sponsored for, and then the sponsor of that scholarship. So what we might want to do is ask various questions. We might want to figure out is what's the biggest scholarship per college. So here we have IT Tralee, Athlone, RCSI, DCU, GMIT, and many other colleges. So what's the biggest sponsorship amount per college? So we have to go down through each college and figure out what's the largest value in column L. So we're looking at column H for the college and column L for the scholarship. So that's the largest. And the same would apply to the smallest. And then if we want to get the average, it's even more calculations involved. So what Excel is very good at doing is it can allow us to take several hundred rows of data, several thousand rows of data, and from that bundle of data, generate pivot tables where we create little summaries, where we count things, or we get the averages, or the maximums, or the minimums. So how do we build a pivot table? Well, first of all, you need a batch of data that's in a structured format like this. And this data has headings, and then the data in each column is consistent. So in other words, column A is all the numbers, column F is all the counties, column I is all the courses, and column L is all the scholarships, all the scholarship values, and M is the sponsors of those scholarships. So over here on the left-hand side, I have a question. So the first question I'm asking is, using a pivot table, show the highest player scholarship for each college in the list, and then to exclude UCC, UCD, and UL from the results when they're displayed. So when the whole thing is processed, we'll be excluding UCC, UCD, and UL. So I'm just going to copy the question, so I'll have a copy of it later on when I'm in Excel, and then I'll maximize the Excel window. So there we are looking at our potential pivot table. So to create a pivot table, we're on the scholarship sheet or tab at the moment. And when we build pivot tables, we'll create them in new sheets all the time. So in this workbook, when this exercise is finished, you'll see an additional sheet in here for that particular question. So to create a pivot table, you go to the Insert option, and the first icon here says Pivot Table. So when we choose Pivot Table, it then asks us what range of cells are going to be involved in this pivot table. And because we clicked anywhere in the block of cells, Excel has the intelligence to recognize that we probably want to work from cell A1 down to cell M101. That's what it says here in the table or range. So as you can see that that range of cells, I'm just going to cancel it for a moment. That range of cells is picked up by Excel as the scope of the pivot table. So you can see the little border around the edges here. And the second thing we have to be aware of is, where do we want this pivot table to appear? Do we want it in a new worksheet or the existing worksheet? And because we're going to be creating a number of pivot tables, it's best to separate them into new worksheets. So then we press the OK button, and you get this blank new worksheet that has no data on it. So what will happen is Excel, when we're working on this pivot table, Excel is going to be reading its data from the scholarships sheet. So I'm going to move this sheet over here to my right so it follows the sample data. And I'm going to rename it as example 1. It's going to be EX1. And then the question that's in mind is, I'm going to put it in a text box. So this is the easiest way to keep track of the questions and how they relate to the answer, etc. So I'm going to insert a text box. I'll just draw down here where it might be out of the way, and I'll paste it in. So this is example 1. So it says, using a pivot table, show the highest player scholarship for each college in the list. So I'll make the font a bit bigger so it's visible on the screencast. And then exclude UCC, UCD, and UL from the results when they're displayed. So when we clicked on this screen initially, or this sheet initially, there was something over here on the right hand side. And the way you make that visible again is click on this image here on the left, and then the pivot table fields or options appear on my right hand side. So over here to my left is the kind of little image which is the skeleton for this blank pivot table. And the way you actually populate it with data and labels is by ticking or clicking on the various fields that are over here on my right hand side. So what I want to do is it says get the highest scholarship for each college. So I'm focused on the scholarship, and I'm focused on the college. So back to my pivot table area again, and I'm going to click on college, or ticket rather. So I tick college, it automatically appears in the list, and they're automatically in alphabetical order. So then I tick the scholarship, and the scholarship data appears. But you have to be careful here that you make sure you get what you want. We want the highest scholarship. We don't want the sum of the scholarships. So by default, when you choose the scholarship column from the pivot table fields, Excel will automatically do a sum for you. It'll add up all the scholarships for Athlone IT. So for Athlone IT, the total value of all the scholarships is 27,980. That's the combined value of them all. For Waterford IT, the total value of all the scholarships down here at the bottom is 17,437. Whereas we want the highest. So what we want to do is, this is the field area, and then we have this zone down here which is 4 kind of sections to it, or 4 quadrants to it, and they are very important as we build and modify pivot tables. So as you can see here in the bottom right one, we have the sum of scholarships. We don't want that, we want the highest, or the maximum scholarship per college. So here we have the rows. So the colleges here is all the colleges in the list pop into the rows on this pivot table, and the sum of the scholarships has popped into column B. But we don't want the sum, we instead want the highest, or the maximum. So to change it from sum, which is the default, we go into this feature here called value field settings. And this will be one of the most common aspects of pivot tables you're going to use. Okay, value field settings are going to be a major part of any pivot tables you do. So we'll click on value field settings, and you notice that the sum is there by default as the first, followed by count, average, max, min, and then we go down to other more fancy calculations like product, count numbers, standard deviations, and other more advanced aspects of pivot tables. So we want the highest, we want the max. So if we choose that and press OK, it'll give us the maximum scholarship. And we've achieved what we set out to achieve. Now we'll do 1 or 2 other little things. It says we want to exclude certain colleges from the list. So by default, when you build a table, pivot table, all of the different colleges get included. All the different options there automatically are included. So we want to eliminate the 3 that start with U from the list. So we just click up here on the row labels, and you'll notice that they're all ticked. So all we have to do is untick those we don't want. The 3 colleges, UCC, UCD, and UL. Hit the OK button, and they're now eliminated from the list. The other things we can do is, we're still now back in the value field settings. So I've accessed value field settings from 2 places. I can access it down here through the bottom right hand corner and get whatever ones I want to appear. Or alternatively, I can click on the max scholarship and it'll also appear. So either of those 2 approaches will work. So I'll double click again on max scholarship. What I'm going to do here is, just rather than having max of scholarship, I'm just going to relabel it as largest scholarship, or highest scholarship, whichever is appropriate. So it's the largest scholarship per college, we'll say, okay? Per college. And that makes it slightly more informative. And the other thing we might like to do in some pivot tables is format the data here as currency. So we just select the range of cells, right click on them, format the cells. We'll choose currency, but we'll leave out the decimal places. There's no need for decimal places here because there's no averaging going on or anything else like that. So that's the way to format the cells to suit your needs. So again, this is a very quick pivot table where we took the data in the scholarship sheet, we inserted the pivot table, and this is what initially created a blank pivot table with the raw material to build the actual pivot table is over here on the right. So As I said earlier on there, if you click on any of the other cells in the spreadsheet, the actual fields appear over here on the right hand side vanish. To get them back into view, you just click anywhere on the active pivot table here on the left, and you can change whatever you want to change. If you didn't want it by college, you could do it by county instead, and it'll work away. So it's very easy to build and to fix and to edit pivot tables. And they give us very useful summary information about whatever data we're trying to process. So it allows us to get totals, get averages, get maximums, minimums, and so on. So pivot tables are very, very useful in anyone's use of Excel to summarize information, summarize data. That's the end of the clip.